afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis, hence the name of my channel, Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. 4 years ago, I was asked to come up with a series of videos that were filmed inexpensively. We don't use digital cameras, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't use shotgun microphones, we wear tatty shirts, we just use a phone, but we look at cars that you can buy for a budget up to £1,000 only, and we very much enjoy ourselves. These are cars that might be in cosmetically bad condition. You might see oil leaks, rattly dashboards and cosmetic imperfections, but we go all over the country and we find these very inexpensive cars that you all seem to enjoy watching. Well, viewers, we have another car from the collection of Mr. Young. This is the fourth one we've had on the channel. The Hyundai Pony was the first one, but it was in this location exactly about 18 months ago. Then the P10 Primera, which was a turquoise colour. Then the Mark 1 Renault Clio in red. This is his latest acquisition. It is a 1994 Fiat Punto Mark 1 1.1 55 SX. Before you say anything, I've actually driven the car that Mr. Richardson owns, that you are thinking about, 1994 Punto 1.2 ELX, 75 model that one is. I drove that when it was on with its previous owner, Mr. Bushby, who is a massive Fiat collector. This is not as well equipped as the ELX. Is a little bit more basic. The SX model, it's also got a much less powerful engine. 55 does refer approximately to the horsepower output. It's actually got 53 horsepower this, so it's not the fastest car in the world, but actually this is in remarkably good condition, and I'm pleased to say that we're well within no budget reviews money with this car. There are a couple of things that Mr. Young needs to do to it. It's recently had an MOT. There are some advisories on it, but things like the coil springs and the tyres, so they can be fixed easily. We'll use the key to open up. We've got the blue key here. I think these used to have a red master key as well. That was the best thing not to lose it. So very spacious car indeed, these little Puntos. As you can see, fitting all this stuff in here. Now this looks like a sort of normal boot size for a Super Mini now, but in 1994 when these were launched in the UK, this was huge, so much bigger than like a Metro or something like that, or the Mark III Fiesta. Both of those were, you know, quite old designs by the time this car came out, and they did sort of revolutionise the sort of class they were, these Puntos. They were very well regarded and won European Car of the Year. Because this is the SX model, you haven't got colour keyed bumpers. That was on the ELX and above in the early days. Also, we've not got power steering on this car, or air conditioning or anything like that. We've not got a driver's airbag. Weirdly, the ELX, which was kind of one of the top models in the range, didn't get power steering on the earlier models. In fact, Mr. Richardson's car doesn't have it. This doesn't have it either. The steering is quite heavy. One remarkable thing though about this car is the mileage, 35,600 miles. It was in the same family until 2020. From 1994, it's a June 94 this one. Mr. Richardson's a May 94, though the build date on his is a lot earlier than this. So really kind of airy, spacious car, very sort of modern looking for the time. Quite well trimmed actually, but very different from the Uno which came before, which was a much more dated design by the time that it was replaced in sort of 93, 94, depending on the market. No air conditioning in this one. It might be up here somewhere if you had air conditioning. I've actually got front fog lights on this because this isn't the base model. This is the SX, which is one above the base. The base one is called the S. We've also got electric windows, although no electric mirrors or anything like that. I do like this upholstery. This is actually quite nice. It seems to have worn quite well over many years. This car is almost 30 years old now, which seems to me ridiculous when I know that I have very good memories of these coming out, actually getting the What Car issues at the time when they did. So yeah, to a lot of you this won't seem like a very old car, but it is. So headlight switches up there. The lights and wipers are on here. parking lights are actually on this thing down here. I'm not going to press that because I've learnt from sort of 80s, 90s Fiat, if you start fiddling around with parking lights, it can get a bit tricky, so we're going to leave that alone. The wiper stalk is on there. My autofocus will work properly, thank you. Very simple dash. Not a lot to say really about this. It's quite easy to see, and you've got a big sort of sculpted. I can't remember if they fitted passenger airbags in some of the later ones. I think we did. Facelift was about 1997, or they made some changes to it, but there weren't massive changes really. The design they sort of got right first off, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, really easy to operate these controls. They're not fiddly at all. They're big and sort of chunky switches. Grundig stereo. I think this is the original stereo. It's not Fiat branded or anything, but I think this is the original one. Because of modern motoring, we've got a thing in there for phone calls and USB, something with a cigarette lighter. Big ashtray, of course. Italian car. Little place there which looks like it's a cup holder, but I don't think it is. I think your sort of espresso is going to fall over if you go around the corner too quickly. 5-speed manual. You could get an automatic on the SX trim level called the Selector, and I'll tell you more about that in a little while, because it's a bit strange how some of the engines in this car kind of functioned in the range. The Selector had a different engine for many years and everything else. Normal handbrake, thank goodness. That looks to me like it could be an ashtray, but it's not. Maybe sort of posh body's got a centre console, so we don't get it in this. Right, there's not a lot else to say. We'll get my mission documents out in a moment to see if we can get those in. Oh, Jamiroquai. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. Mr. Young has got his tapes out with the period appropriate music. That makes me feel so old. I think this is a little bit later than the car. Oh no, it's not. It's 93. Wow. That's superb, viewers. I'm very excited about that for reasons I can't really tell you. What's this? Lords of the Underground. This door pocket's really rubbish though. It's really long, but it's really thin. Right, because Mr. Banning from Vivati's Cars YouTube channel dictates that I do so, I shall get in the back. It should be really easy in this. You could get a 5-door as well if you wanted to have a bit more ease of access for your passengers, but there's no noises at all today like Roger Moore's stunt double from View to a Kill. So I've got the seat set for me. I am 5'11", and that's absolutely fine. I mean, I've got to sit a bit upright, but there's loads of headroom. Like, my head's not touching the ceiling. I've got a good couple of inches, actually, so that is excellent. Also got like an ashtray in here. Oh, yes, look at that. Ashtray, of course. We could pop the windows out if you wanted to, but I'm not going to because the weather is miserable down here at Hamble Rice today. Yeah, we've got a centre seat belt. Not got a split folding seat in this car. I think you had to go up a trim in the early days of things like that. Rather like the unpainted bumpers and the unpainted mirrors. Seat height adjustment, which I think I should actually do for myself. There we go. Make it easier when I drive it a bit later. Not a lot to say really. It's a nice sort of comfy space. It's very simple, but it's so much larger in here than something like a Fiesta would have been. Of course, it's 94, so we're talking about the Mark III. Yeah, it feels comfortable. I could go quite a long way like this. You put your feet underneath there, no problem. It's comfortable enough. You could even sort of probably squeeze 3 very thin people in the back of here. What a practical little car this is. So here we have it. Little 1.1 litre fire engine with 53 horsepower or 55 PS. Hence the name of the kind of trim level. Well, it was trim level and the engine specification. Fiat did that a lot in those days. 55. So we've got fuel injection, of course. Back in the day, it was sort of quite something, but you know, if you're launching a car in 93, 94, in the European Union, all cars had to have a catalytic converter or something to help them get through Euro 1 emission standards by 1st of January 1993. So obviously all of these have a catalytic converter and fuel injection. Very, very few cars retained carbs after 1993. Nissan and Lada are ones like the street spring to mind immediately that did. These were known back in the day for leaking cylinder heads. It wasn't actually the head gasket that tended to go, it was the cylinder head itself that became porous, and there was that's right reputation for that. It was the same as like the Rover K series, although that is really the head gasket that goes. But actually this one's absolutely fine. There's really not much wrong with this car at all, which is amazing. Paint's all original on it, there's no rust in here. The only rust I can see is a tiny bit on the base of the driver's door. Apart from that, this one's fine. See a servo there in front of the driver, looks really easy to work on. You can go up to 1.6 litres with one of these. Oh, there's the air filter, sorry, oil filter just there. Very, very easy. Look at all this kind of ground you can see under here, and the gearbox will just be down here. These days, you know, this is quite a simple car, and you know, it looks like it was pretty well engineered, really. Yeah, certainly one of these would have been something that a lot of people would have just wanted to have. You just drive and get in and see it and feel that it's a lot better made than some of the other Fiats were known for being back in the day. What a fantastic little car. Right, let's go for a drive, shall we, and get out of this terrible rain. Again, not the best day really to be filming this review, I suppose, but that's January for you in the south of England. So when the car came out in this country in 1994, the base engine was this 1.1, which is badged as 55, but actually has 53 horsepower. The next one up would be the 1.2 engine, and that was the 75, like the one I filmed last time. 73 horsepower actually, that is. Again, it's a PS figure, 75. Next one above that was a 1.6 that was available in some other trims, but the one you probably wouldn't know it from most of all is for sporting, and that had around sort of 88 horsepower. The 1.6 I think is actually related to the engine that was in the Brava at the time as well, when that came out in 1995. The really fast Mark 1 Punto was the GT Turbo, I think it was called, or just GT, and that had somewhere between 134 and 129 horsepower, depending on the year. I think the later cars are 129, and the earlier ones are like between 131 and 134. They kept changing values for some reason. That 1.4 is actually similar to a lot of the earlier Fiat engines. Not a fire engine, that one. It's the old sort of called the Lampredi unit, that one. When the car was facelifted in 1997, there were quite a few changes. So the 1.1 engine was dropped. It was replaced with a 1.2 with 58 horsepower, badged as 60. And that engine had been used on the only automatic Mark 1 Punto that existed in this country, as far as I'm aware, but the SX Selector. That had the engine for quite a long time. I don't know why they decided that they wanted to put that engine in. It had just been in the Selector, but that's what we did. The 1.6 and 1.2 73 horsepower engines were replaced by a 16 valve 1.2, which is known as the 85, actually 86 horsepower. Bizarrely, I don't really know why this is, the 75 badged cars actually continued until 1998, so you could actually buy the 16 valve and the 8 valve versions of 1.2 at the same time. In fact, there were sort of 3 1.2s at one time, 60, the 75, the 85 altogether. That was eventually discontinued in 1998, last year. The sort of higher power 1.2s were the 85s. So driving this little car, it's actually pretty good. The one thing I noticed when driving Mr. Richardson's car, what is now Mr. Richardson's car, back in 2022, was the fact that the steering, although it's quite heavy at parking speeds, it lightened up. And it was so light at kind of 60 miles an hour, I was wondering if there was something wrong with it, but apparently that's just what they're like. I can't remember offhand now if the GTs all had power steering. They probably did. It's quite strange to think that like the most luxurious model at the time, the ELX, didn't have power steering when the cars came out. I think the 1.6s might have done it with the ELXs, but certainly the 1.2s didn't. Steering feel is fine. It's not as incisive to drive at all as something like a Mark IV Fiesta, which would have been a rival throughout the kind of sort of latter part of the Mark I Punto's life. And these were discontinued towards the end of 1999, and the Mark II came out, which I don't think was exactly the same platform. It just shared some characteristics with the Mark I, but they were still really popular, like these were actually, obviously in Italy, but in other markets too. These were very, very popular cars. I remember being a student at the University of France in 2003, and one of my friends had one of these. Actually, it was a 5-door, and he wasn't particularly fond of it, but you know, I thought it was a perfectly decent car back in the day. Lots of people I knew in the 2000s had these Mark I Puntos, and yeah, apart from rust and propensity to have porous cylinder heads, they're not too bad. Trims you can get were S, even more basic than this, no electric windows or anything. The SX, the majority of them were. The ELX, which would have seen extensively on the channel if you're watching Furious Driving and mine. I drove Mr. Richardson's car actually before he bought it, so there we go. Many of the Sporting, which first of all had 1.6 engine, then later on it had the 1.2 16 valve engine, so it actually dropped some power from 80 to 86 horsepower, but it was actually a bit faster than 0 to 60. This 1.1, unless you're looking at the 6-speed model, which this is not just a 5-speed, apparently 0 to 60 time and this is like 18 or 19 seconds or something. The 6-speed model that was only available between 1995 and 1996, around 18 months, did 0 to 60 in 15.5 seconds, so it's considerably quicker. Why they only had it for a little while, I don't know. There's also an ST model special edition towards the end of production in 1998-99. So yeah, this is a lovely little car, really. I can't see why this one wouldn't keep going for many, many years. It's maybe not everyone's cup of tea, this. I mean, I'm maybe not quite the sort of person who goes for one that's as basic as this, although it's quite well specified for, you know, one trim up. If you're kind of looking at a car from the 1990s, it'll look like this. It's actually not that bad, because this is almost a sort of launch model. But there are loads of other things as well. It just depends on what your nostalgia's like, whether you consider these to be very nostalgic cars. I mean, I certainly do. They're sort of the sort of time that I was around doing things, but it's up to you, really.